Good evening and welcome to Overtime here on WOTM. I am Gerhard Mathangani, joined by our expert historian / researcher, Mark Everett Kelly. Does a great job of really diving in the numbers. We'll take a look at a lot of different aspects today, but let's start with the Iron Bowl. I don't think anybody saw a 24-22 football game played in 4 overtimes. What were some of your takeaways on Saturday after another classic Iron Bowl football game?
We know with this history that anything can happen in the Iron Bowl, and I think those you were counting out Auburn.
Right.
Maybe didn't understand that this team has a lot of pride and has a lot to play for, even though that their season was over. They had lost 3 straight. They hadn't lost 4 straight in a long time.
Right.
And they did not want to go out on a season now having lost 4 straight to end the year. And again, against Alabama at home, a game that I think most people would say was a lot closer than anybody imagined, and they had a real shot to win.
Right.
If they don't do, obviously, you can point to 1 or 2 things that in other matchups you could say, well, how did that happen? There seemed to be an extra second on the clock.
Right.
How did that happen? That didn't happen this year. Auburn didn't win because they didn't make a big play when they needed to, with Tank Bigsby running out of bounds. If he doesn't do that, the game is over.
Right.
So that was why they lost. Now, I'll give Alabama credit because they managed to rebound when they got that break and go 97 yards in the last couple minutes, and ending with Bryce Young, who I thought played a gutsy game, but he really was exposed by Auburn and a lot of other teams, mainly Georgia, and then if Alabama was lucky enough to get to the college football playoff, a lot of teams were watching that. They seem to consistently put pressure on Bryce Young. And when you played this poorly in this game, you want to be getting better at the end of the year. So the good thing about this is it was a gutsy win. It was a real statement win that, hey, we can have everything go wrong in a place that is probably our worst nightmare of things that have happened to Alabama fans. There are some Alabama fans who probably will be in therapy the rest of their life for some of the games there with the kick six and the 48-45 game. So this isn't a very welcoming place. However, they managed to, when everything was going against them, like Newt Rockne said, boys, when the brakes are going, against you, they managed to pull through and they managed to win the game. And it's plays like that, Auburn just makes. I mean, like 4th string tight end making a one-hand catch. It just seems like those things happen.
Exactly.
And everything led to Alabama's shouldn't win this game, judging on the past of Auburn beating Alabama. But Alabama stuck it out. I thought that they had some real bad letdowns defensively. I thought their play calling defensively was awful. And their play calling offensively left much to be desired. And I think as an Alabama fan, those are probably the 2 areas that most Alabama fans feel they could improve. Is maybe Bill O'Brien isn't the best out of getting the most out of this offense, where we saw Sark was, we saw Lane Kiffin was. And maybe Pete Golding isn't the best guy to have out there when you need a defense to stop an offense that's a pretty good offense, or that needs to make a big-time play and really be the difference maker in a game. I thought last year they had Charlie Strong. Everybody forgets that. Charlie Strong was on the staff last year, not this year. That was a big part of that defense. And I think that's the reason why there's a little more inconsistency this year. But we'll see. If they cannot play this way going into Georgia and expect to win, I mean, that's obvious. But just with the rivalry and everything, rivalry games, you never know. You never know what can happen. I remember, in all the rivalry games, in all of football, whatever league, I've seen some really bad teams beat some really good teams because it's just a rivalry game. And anything can happen when you don't take a team as seriously as you normally would. And I'm not saying Alabama took them lightly, but I think the feeling was, okay, Auburn really just got kicked in the teeth, especially that loss to South Carolina. That was really bad. But then Saban made a good point, too, at his press conference the other day. Here's a team that was real hungry and wanted to prove that they weren't a team that was going to consistently lose to teams like South Carolina. Well, I think that was probably a step back for Auburn after everything they accomplished here, after everything Larson accomplished this year. But we also see the remnants of not kind of following through on what they set up early in the year with Bobo being fired. And I thought Bobo did okay.
Right.
But he's gone. Harshan showed, you know what, this wasn't good enough. We got to be better next year. But I think the game that they played against Alabama was a good start.
Right.
Because it gives them something to build on. Even though they didn't win, I thought they played the best they could have played against one of the best teams in the nation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I agree with you. I think there's a lot of moral victories that is kind of get, I think, a little exaggerated. I think with this Auburn program, they are going to a bowl game, so they have another chance to get some practice time. And then maybe if they can win that bowl game, they'll be in good shape. You talked about Nick Saban in his press conference the other day. Meanwhile, he had one today in lead up to the SEC championship game. Here's what he had to say about those Bulldogs.
You know, this is a great opportunity for our team to be in the SEC championship game. They worked hard all year for it. They're going to play a great team in Georgia. Georgia's the #1 team in the country. They've been the most consistent team, you know, all year long in terms of how they've sustained their performance and played at a high level, dominated the competition just about every game that they've played. I think that's, you know, a reflection of Kirby. He's done a great job. They have, you know, a mature team that plays with a lot of competitive character, and you know, they're the #1 defense in the country. This is a complete team, and it'll be a tremendous challenge for our players to, you know, play well. That's obviously the goal, and we've got to have the right mindset and good preparation, you know, all week long to be able to do that.
Let's quickly talk about Auburn for a second. We talked about them right before that soundbite. But now, obviously, word out tonight that Mike Bobo, 1 year as offensive coordinator, is now gone for the Tigers. What does Auburn need to find offensively with their new OC, and what kind of style do you think Auburn should be playing as they now move forward here?
I think Auburn's biggest detractor this year was they didn't consistently run the ball like they normally do. I think you're used to seeing Auburn run the ball down people's throats. They didn't this year. I thought for Tank Bixby, it was a little bit of a disappointing year, even though he still had a good year, but it wasn't what we saw last year as one of the best freshmen in the SEC.
Right.
So I think that's what you really want to find. Auburn's identity to me is a team that plays smart football. Now, I mean, with all of college football changing and the run-pass option coming into play, maybe they feel like they need to be more diverse offensively.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that, but they still can't get away from their strength, which is running the football. Alabama did it for years, and they won very handily with a sound running game and a really good defense. Now, maybe you can't do that anymore in college football and consistently win, but I think it's a good start for Auburn. If they're maintaining the line of scrimmage and they're dominating the line of scrimmage, that's really Auburn-type football. And then from there, we'll see what kind of offense they can build. But it really starts with running the ball and dominating time of possession, doing all the things that they need to do to control the game. And I think that is probably the best thing you can expect out of them. When they're winning, that's what they're doing. Even with Cam Newton, they had a great run-pass option then.
For sure.
But he was a unique talent.
Right.
So if they can get a guy like that, obviously that is a difference maker. But if not, you want to make sure that you're consistently doing one thing very well. And for Auburn, that's running the ball.
Exactly. Playing a physical style of football, running and playing defense. I agree with you. And Brian Harsin now on the search for a new offensive coordinator. It's been kind of a weird year on offense. You fire your receivers coach. You also fire your offensive coordinator. We'll see where the Tigers go offensively from there. One quick reminder, the high school football state championships can be seen right here on WOTM and get underway on Wednesday. And here is the schedule coming up. We'll start with the flag football championship. Of course, it is the inaugural season of girls flag football. That is Hewitt-Trussville and Smith Station. They'll get action started at Protective Stadium in Birmingham at 3 o'clock. Meanwhile, Central Phoenix City and Thompson will battle for the 7A state championship game on Thursday. Action starts at 11 a.m. with Montgomery Academy and Piedmont in 3A, Sweetwater and Wadley in Class 1A, Pike Road and Pleasant Grove playing in Class 5A. Meanwhile, on Friday, the last day of the high school football season, Viger and Aniana will battle for the 4A state championship. The 2A title will be played between Clark County and Cleveland, and Hueytown and Clay Chalkville will finish it off Friday night at 7 o'clock. Once again, all games live right here on WOTM. We'll have a lot more on the high school state championships coming up tomorrow night with the host of AHSAA Weekly, John Holder, in the house with us. Well, coming up next here at Overtime, we'll talk a little bit more college football. Some big-time news coming out just today in the world of college football with Lincoln Riley and the LSU job now is filled. A couple of great names, a couple of great talking points. We'll have it all coming up next.